So the way dropshipping works, you choose a product, you sell the product, you get paid for it, then you purchase it, and then the supplier ships it direct to your customer. Is everyone clear on dropshipping? Yep.
How do you private label with dropship products?
You don't, because you can't, because dropshipping is getting it shipped direct from your supplier.
Correct.
Right, so if you, just to finish answering, so when I talked about that, so what you do for private labelling is you buy one item from one of your suppliers, that's one of your top selling dropship items, and then you label that, you photograph it, and then you list it. But once you go to private labelling, you're no longer dropshipping, unless you've got one of your suppliers, which is very unlikely and very unusual, to label your stuff. That's not normally the case. So you move from dropshipping to private labelling. Sorry, did that answer your question?
Will the customers see that it's coming from overseas, or will it
No, because you don't use that. You never use overseas suppliers.
Oh, okay.
So there's with dropshipping. I'll just quickly go there. I wasn't going to drop, but with dropshipping, there's 4 criteria. The first criteria is you only use suppliers in your own country.
Oh, okay.
Right. Now I know a lot of people out there teach, yeah, you can use AliExpress and whatever, and you can. It's just very high risk, because when you sell this item on eBay or Amazon today, and then it takes 3 weeks to arrive because there's delay in customs, there's volcanic ash, or God knows what happens. Exactly, you get hammered. So there's no way we'll do that. So and you don't have to just do it in Australia, because eBay, for instance, is in 27 different countries. Amazon's in 33. So you can have businesses all over the planet. But it's obviously better if you just have them in English-speaking countries. Like we've done them in Australia many times, Canada, USA, Spain, Ireland, and the UK, because they're all English-speaking, and also South Africa. But that wasn't eBay. That was what's it? The name escapes me off the top of my head, but it's not eBay. It's another one. But so you can do it all over the planet.
Yeah.
But so that's number one. Number two is we only use suppliers that have what we call a dynamic website. And a dynamic website is a website that shows if items are in stock, because you must have a methodology in place with dropshipping to make sure your items are in stock. If they run out, you want to make your inventory go to 0 straight away. So you can use software to do it all automatically. And the third one is they must be able to dispatch within 2 business days, for obvious reasons. And the third one is they must be able to dispatch with no invoice, because if you sold an item for say $500 and there's an invoice in the box for $300, the customer gets upset.
Yeah.
So we only use suppliers that meet those 4 criteria. But again, if you want to know more about it, just go to that link /drop. And that's it. Yep.
In terms of private labelling, can Amazon do any of that for you if you send the goods straight there?
No. Yep.
Any recommendations on dropship website in Australia?
Yeah, look, just follow that, because I don't want to go into dropshipping tonight. I just want to stay on track with Amazon. But there's a link there that shows you, follow that link, it teaches you how to find suppliers. There's thousands of them. All right, so step 1 for selling on Amazon. Obviously, first thing, open an account. Now, unlike eBay where you can open a gazillion accounts, you can only open one on Amazon. However, you can apply to have more if you have special circumstances. So obviously if you've got some brand name or multiple brand names, you want to have separate businesses and separate accounts for it, you can definitely do that. You can just apply them and they can get it, they'll often approve it. But for the average person, unlike eBay, you can only have one account. Product research. Now, most people fixate on this, the bestseller strategy. We call it the BSS strategy, so it's the bestseller. And most people just fixate on what's the hottest selling item on Amazon. And it's normally like the cheapest thing. So most people end up doing this strategy and they find iPhone cases, USB cables, all this cheap stuff where there's so much competition, there's so little money in it, and everyone just fights it out for margin. So I'm going to show you that tonight too, but I want to show you other ways where you can find a lot more profitable items. Because a lot of people just think that turnover is profit, but it's not. It's half the equation. Profit comes from profit per sale times velocity, times how many times an item sells a month. So if this item sells and it makes $10 a sale, it's that times how many times it sells per month. So you can have other items that running higher margins than fighting it out just for the scraps at the bottom. So BSS, most common strategy. Most people fixate on this BSS strategy. It's got the most competition. It's got the highest MOQ. In other words, you've got to buy the most items to try and squeeze a profit margin in it. It's got the lowest margins, often the lowest price items like USB cables and iPhone accessories, etc. And it doesn't mean it's got the most profit. As I said, you can have things that sell less, but the other side of the equation, the velocity is higher, the margins are higher, so you can, at the end of the day, you can make more money and do less work. Now, the wholesale strategy, which I'm going to talk about now, this is basically the oldest strategy in the world. It's basically buying in bulk at a discounted price. It's the oldest kind of strategy you can ever think about. The pros of it, you can choose existing products which already have good sales rank, good reviews, and you just get those at a good price, which I'll talk about how to do that. Products with good sales rank already show high in Amazon search results compared to a brand new product. So you can basically just jump on the bandwagon of something that's already selling, buy it at wholesale, and away you go. Now, this is a big one, MOD. This is one big, huge takeaway for anyone who's new in the room. You really got to write this down and just continually hit this. MOD is minimum order dollar. Many or most suppliers will not even tell you that they offer it. What it means by that, you might have to buy a minimum of 50 of these or 100 of them or whatever. But if you go to the supplier and say, hey, instead of doing that, can I have a minimum dollar amount? Can I buy $1,000 worth of stuff, $5,000, $10,000 worth of stuff, whatever? And if I have that, can I now get multiple items instead of one item? And if you do this, you've suddenly got a much wider product range. So if you get 10 products instead of one, you can effectively 10x, have 10 times more products, which means you can 10x your revenue for the same amount of money. It's very, very important. We always, every single supplier, whether it's a local supplier or an overseas supplier, we always talk about MOD. Because everything in life is negotiable, everything. Just because they tell you something doesn't mean squat. They might say, no, you have to buy 100. Well, negotiate. You create unique bundle listings. I'm going to talk about bundling tonight. There's a really cool tool you can use for free, which is Amazon shows you what to bundle. I'll show you tonight. You can use that same information for eBay. So MOD allows you to create a wide number of listings instead of deep. So you get more bang for your buck. Now, wholesaling, of course, is a good way to learn the FBA process, because you shouldn't, if you're a beginner, be very careful about jumping on and finding products yourself if you don't have the experience. I've heard so many people do this, where they find a product, they basically mortgage their house, import a whole container of them, then they hope like hell it's going to sell. It's not a good business model. You're better to start with proven products until you learn the industry. You can sometimes purchase locally labeling ungated. Now, eBay it's got restricted products, Amazon calls them gated. Same thing, different word. So if you purchase locally, you can often get around this gating issue. So, for instance, if you try and sell beauty products, they're gated. You can't do it because they're classified as food. So if you purchase locally, it's a way of getting around the gated a lot easier than bringing in something that's from China and then getting the Food Administration, etc., and getting approval. So wholesale buying bulk at discounted price. The cons of it are some wholesalers will not supply Amazon and eBay sellers. In fact, a huge majority will not. So don't tell them. Now, it's amazing how many people come to me and say, oh, you know, I contact this supplier and they said they won't supply because I either sell on eBay or Amazon or I dropship or whatever. And I always say, why did you tell them? Well, I don't know. We don't. Our purchasing office is in the Philippines. We run a separate business, separate company name, and that's who our purchasing is. Now, every time someone asks us what we're going to do with the products, we always say the same thing. Our staff's been saying this now for over 10 years. We have a database, and we do, and you guys should as well. So when we sell items, we put them through the database as well. Every product goes through our database. Now, the way our database works, and you guys should do one too, if you sell anything on eBay or your website or whatever, you get an email address. And then you can send an email out to your database selling your products. Gazillions of times we've sold whole containers of products using our database. So when we get what's called a DO, the delivery order, from the docks saying we can pick up a container, we'll then send out a mailer, and we've many times sold out the whole container from the time that we got the DO to the time that the truck delivers our container. We've sold the whole container just from the database. But that's another story. So don't volunteer information. Don't ring up your suppliers and say, hey, I want to sell on eBay and Amazon. You know, it just doesn't work. So if you do want to go that, then you can go the route of telling them, you know, what a wonderful seller you are and, you know, how you're going to help their business, but good luck with that. Yes?
Is it easy to get an account on Amazon?
Yes, it is. I asked, probably, I don't know, maybe a year ago, I asked the question in the room, who's got an application in for Amazon and has not been approved? And like, I think you here, Lincoln, was probably 3/4 of the room or more put their hand up. So if I ask the same question here, who here has got an application in Amazon and hasn't been approved? 2. Okay. So I think that probably answers the question. It's pretty easy. Okay. So wholesaling. Now you are competing for the buy box, and I'll talk about the buy box now. What that thing is, because whoever owns the buy box gets the most sales. If you're not in the buy box, you get slow sales. So this is the problem with wholesaling. If you don't get the buy box, you're sitting on a whole lot of stock, it's going to be slow to move it. And that's why multi-channeling is the way. So when people say to me, should I sell on eBay, Amazon, or my website? My answer is always the same. It's, why don't you sell on all 3? Because then if it slows down on one channel, you can always move to, you know, you've got 2 more channels left. Also, if you've got a hot selling product, this hasn't happened in Australia yet, but we'll just see what happens, but it certainly happens a lot in the US. When something sells like hotcakes, Amazon gets excited and goes and buys a stack of them. And then good luck competing with Amazon. So here's the buy box. On Amazon, this is the buy box. And it works very much like the eBay best match algorithm. So it looks at so if you're the buyer, it looks at where you're located, and then it looks at all the sellers. So obviously, if you're in Melbourne and there's there's other sellers in Melbourne, then there's one in Ayers Rock. The guy in Ayers Rock, unfortunately, is not going to get shown very high up unless he's an FBA seller. But if he's shipping himself from Ayers Rock or Darwin, he's going to get down the search results. So it takes into account where everyone's located, of course, price, also their account, all that kind of stuff, and of course FBA. So if it's in an Amazon warehouse, it's going to get bumped up higher. So it looks at all these factors, then whatever it does, this is the seller that it chooses, then everybody else is below here. And that's the way the buy box works. Okay, so tips for finding local wholesale companies. When using Google for wholesalers, most wholesalers don't have good SEO web pages. Now what I mean by that is, if you do a search for an item like, let's say, PowerPoint device wholesale, if you do that, the first page that come up in Google are generally always going to be retailers, even if it says wholesale. All it means is that they've bought a .com with a word wholesale in it, because wholesalers generally have rubbish websites. It's the retailers that invest all the money on the good websites, not the wholesalers. So generally, if it's the first 3 pages when you search for something, it's very often a retailer. And just because it has the word wholesale in there, it doesn't mean anything. I used to own a company called Cam1 Computer Wholesale. We were not wholesale, but we got a lot of business because everyone thought we were wholesale. It was the only thing that we were is I just registered a company name that had the word wholesale in it. So be very careful about that. You've got to. The SEO people, so appearing at the top of the search results, are the people that are paid SEO people to appear at the search results, and they're generally not wholesalers. So top 1 to 3 pages in Google search results, often not true wholesalers. So search the Google product name plus the word wholesale. Now, something that a lot of people haven't discovered yet in Australia is at Etsy.com Market Wholesale, they offer a minimum 50% off. So it's another place to get wholesale products that most people haven't discovered yet in Australia. And like I mentioned earlier, everything in business and life is negotiable, absolutely everything. So now, and I say this because Australians, we're not brought up to negotiate. This is not in our psyche, and we just don't do it very often. But you have to. If you're going to go down the wholesale bandwagon, you've got to negotiate. Now, if you talk to any wholesaler, one of the first things they're going to ask you is, what's your ABN number? Because it's kind of like a hurdle that they want to get you through to see, are you a true business? or you just want to buy this thing and use it yourself. So they ask you what your ABN number is. Now the thing about an ABN number, it's free, and you can do it online. It's instant approval, so there's no reason you can't get an ABN number. So if you use, even like you use some dropship suppliers like Dropship Zone, etc., they make you, they won't talk to you unless you've got an ABN number. So there's no reason not to get one. It's instant approval. It's just one hurdle they make you go through.
I had an ABN years ago and I think it's inactive. Would I apply for a new one, or just have to try and reinstate that old one?
Lincoln?
You've got to talk to the tax office about it.
Reinstate the old one.
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
Lincoln's an accountant, so.
Oh, okay.
All right. So. Okay. So next thing is, besides getting an ABN number, is to make yourself look even more impressive, get yourself a website. A lot of people think, oh my God, that's going to cost me thousands. No, it's not. You can get a website like a Shopify store from $29. You can also get a lot of other free ones as WooCommerce. There's a whole load of things you can get as WordPress plugins, if you know what WordPress is. You can also get a Magento store for free, but you've got to pay someone to set it up. But then to populate all the products, just use dropship items. So you don't have to buy the products, just use dropship items. You can get someone, overseas to, spend maybe 30, 40 bucks, and they'll add all the products, say 50 products for you, into your store. Now you've got an ABN number and you've got a website. So now you look like a professional company. So if you're trying to, negotiate with these wholesalers and you want to look impressive, that's how you do it. It doesn't cost you much money at all. So Shopify store is from $29 a month. Magento store is free, but you've got to pay someone to set it up. And just use dropship products to populate it. Any questions on that? Suddenly you look professional for hardly any money. All right, so how to pay for dropship inventory products and also wholesale products. If you get a credit card with points, if you're just paying with PayPal, you're leaving money on the table, because you can be racking up the points. So this particular card here gives you 120,000 bonus points, and you get your points for every dollar you spend. You can use your collect Qantas frequent flyer points. You've got up to 55 days to pay. You can use cruises, flights. You can convert them into JB Hi-Fi vouchers, David Jones vouchers, etc. You can also drop ship from those companies. So if you've got thousands of points, well, if you think about just a small dropship business which is doing say 50k a month, that's 600k a year. And if you've just got a 1-to-1 ratio of points, and Amex cards can go up to 3 points per dollar, but if you've just got one ratio, that's 600,000 frequent flyer points per year just for a small business. And obviously then you can use those 600,000 points to drop ship products from JB Hi-Fi, etc., and then cash them up. So just food for thought. All right, so obviously talk to your accountant about your obligation for fringe benefits tax with points, but that's another story. Okay, so Amazon sales rank. Sales rank on Amazon. So the two things it looks at, sales rank on Amazon, is velocity. And velocity, of course, is how recently an item's sold. Amazon looks at things that sell per day. It's obviously got a higher sales rank versus things that sell once a week with a low sales rank. Everything is shown in here. So if you look at this particular product, this one is number 1,238 in the beauty category. So every single item shows you what rank it is. So if we want to do product research one-on-one, we just go choose any category here, just on the drop down. We can then go into here, any of these categories. We can do the minors and some rubbish, so it shows us how many items are in a category. So this particular category's got 90,000 in the beauty and personal care category, so we can see how many items are in there. And then we can also go into any category and click best sellers, and it shows you the best sellers in any category.